It is Tuesday, February 3rd. I'm Bernice Hillier, filling in for Adam Walsh today. This is The Signal. Today on the show, we are celebrating Black history. We're going to hear from people in our province who are thinking about Black culture and contributions, not just during the month of February, Black History Month, but all year long. We're also going to be hearing today about an upcoming summit in St. John's that will celebrate Black excellence. We'll be joined by an organizer of that event coming up later this month. Now, to ask a question today on the show or offer your reflections, you can get in touch with us. You can text to us today. The text line is 709-327-8206 during our live show for the next 55 minutes. So text to us at 709-327-8206. Or you can send us an email. thesignal@cbc.ca is our email address. So send us an email or a text, and we'll be able to pass that comment or question along. Once again, the email address, thesignal@cbc.ca. Well, let's introduce our guests who are in studio today in St. John's. We are delighted to have them with us and talking about Black History Month and, as I said, what happens beyond just this 1 month. Laurabel Mba is an anti-racism educator and a consultant and strategist on matters related to diversity, inclusion, equity, and belonging. Welcome once again to The Signal, Laurabel.
Thank you so much for having me, Bernice.
And we have also in studio in St. John's, Khadeja Anderson. She is founder of Ravensong Consulting NL and an organizer with Black Lives Matters Canada, Black Lives Matter Canada, and co-founder of Black Lives Matter Newfoundland and Labrador. Welcome to the show today, Raven.
Thank you. It's nice to be here again.
And we will have other folks from the Black community joining us throughout the show. We're very pleased to be able to provide this platform to talk about, to highlight the Black community in this province, this country, and talk about some of the issues as well facing the Black community. First of all, let's go to our guests in studio. We're talking about Black History Month. Raven, when you think about Black History Month, what does that immediately bring to mind for you?
Well, for me, Black History Month is more than just a time for celebration. It's actually, I think, a time for truth-telling. And when it came to Black Lives Matter NL, our work was really pioneering because we were the first organization to publicly name anti-Black racism and what that means. Of course, there were always our elders here doing that work and naming that work, but on such a large scale, there was only us at that time. So it was important to us to show that racism isn't historical or abstract. It actually matters quite a bit. So for me, particularly, while Black History Month, this year's official theme is 30 years of Black History Month, I would like to mention that Black people's our impression, our work to create what we have now today as Canada is instrumental and foundational in every aspect. So, and we're talking about from the Black loyalists, from even Newfoundland and Labrador and their and our history with the transatlantic slave trade, the economics of it all. So, to me, it matters quite a bit.
Well, let's talk to Laurabel. Laurabel, for you, just some initial thoughts when you think about Black History Month. What comes to mind?
For me, it's a lot about representation. A common thing that when I moved to Newfoundland and Labrador, people were first surprised that, are there even Black people in the province? So it's about getting people to acknowledge not only are Black people here, they are making tremendous contributions to the everyday lives of people of this province, and remembering that history is made in every moment and every day. So it's not just what happened 30 years ago, what happened 100 years ago, that in sitting here in this moment right now, this is Black history. So that these are the things people will talk about, students will learn about, students will study 30, 40, 50 years from now, so that to understand that our history is not a monolith, there are so many different aspects to it. There is the
horrible aspect of racism that is part of the Black existence, not just in this country, but in this province specifically. But there is so much joy inherently in being Black that people also need to acknowledge as well.
I feel like in this province, when we talk about Black History Month, that we've had it for 30 years, I don't think Newfoundlanders and Labradorians have necessarily been hearing about Black History Month for 30 years. So we've got some catching up to do.
Absolutely. No, this province has not been talking about Black History Month for 30 years. So I moved to this province in 2011 to attend university. Black History Month was not a thought, was not a concept, was not something anyone was talking about, poking about. When I had my son in 2019 and was thinking about, okay, he's biracial, I want him to know about Black history in this province. There was a petition I started to get Black History Month to be part of the educational curriculum, and we're still not there yet. It's something that's still a work in progress. It's not officially part of our educational curriculum. So Newfoundland and Labrador hasn't been talking about Black History Month for 30 years, unfortunately. I know it's something I've been working at it for the last 6 for sure. So hopefully when we think about this later on, we will be celebrating 10 years of Black history being acknowledged in this province soon. But for right now, the rest of Canada's at 30 and we have some catching up to do.
What do you think of the theme that was chosen for this year? I guess in the Newfoundland and Labrador context, when you think about honoring Black brilliance across generations, from nation builders to tomorrow's visionaries.
I think the theme is amazing, and I think it pauses us to probe back into, if we're thinking about the nation builders, when we think about who built this province, who are the people, the Black people who are responsible for the things we have now. We have people like Dr. Dolores Mullings, who has been here for years. What are her contributions to this province? We have the Ogunyemi family, who are medical professionals who have been here for so long. The Black history in this province is rich. There is more than 30 years of it in this province, so it's important that we acknowledge our history as well that way.
Raven, this month, of course, is about celebration, but as you said, it's also about truth-telling and talking about the anti-Black racism that exists in this province. So just talk a little bit about that, what you know of it, what you've experienced, what you've heard from others in the Black community.
Well, I always try to look at anti-Black racism as less than an in-person thing, but rather more as an institutional aspect, because we're looking at the systemic anti-Blackness that takes place all throughout Canada. As an educator, I have had the pleasure of going into schools and seeing them talk about Black History Month. Actually, I went to school just the other day, and there was, for me, because I'm a sub, there literally was like an entire thing laid out about Black History Month. And although it focused quite a bit on our American counterparts, when I asked the kids, can anybody tell me about the person who sat on the bus before Rosa? And a little girl stood up and said, Viola Desmond. And I was like, amazing. But even before that, I remember with Black Lives Matter NL, when we literally hosted the very first flag raising, and we did a proclamation with the City Hall because we wanted it to literally be known in the province that this is not a Toronto thing. Actually, Newfoundland and Labrador's ties to Blackness is actually so much deeper. And as a historian, because actually before I came to Newfoundland, I did my thesis on trade relations between the maritime provinces, and I included Newfoundland and Labrador. And it was very interesting to note that Newfoundland and Labrador actually had quite a hand in the economic ties of the slave trade. When we talk about the transatlantic slave trade, we all envision this triangle, but we don't talk about the northern places that did impact on it. Our cod fisheries, all of that still ties to this. And then I had the pleasure of meeting some of the women who were instrumental in bringing Black History Month for it to be 30 years. When I had the honor of attending the Atlantic Black Summit, I think that was a couple of years ago in PEI, we visited somewhere called The Bog. The Bog was literally a Black settlement, and it was removed. They were pushed out, they were erased, and that had me thinking when it was held by the Black Cultural Society of PEI. It had me thinking, imagine if we were not moved and pushed out and just, in the very nice covert way of Canadian racism, where we were just, ushered out carefully. What would the Black Black experience have been Atlantic Canada, not just the stronghold we have with Halifax and the Black loyalists and all that. I also think about the options, so where we could have been in a place where it's not just, oh, Black people came out of nowhere and they're all just immigrants. It's a lot. Like, aren't we all immigrants? So I think it really matters quite a bit in that aspect. But also, I want to talk about how in Newfoundland, we always talk a lot about first and the first Black person to do X, Y, and Z. And I want to question us that next time we think about that, how many of these firsts should have already happened? How many of these opportunities are still limited by systemic barriers? And I would like to put an example, our like international students and the disproportionate challenge we face in terms of being in Canada and making our lives in Canada. So I think it ties back, it needs to be in an all-consuming way, and think about all of the ways that if it had not been this way, what could it have been instead? I think that's the abolitionist in me.
Laurabel, you have a partnership with Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador for the past several years now to highlight Black voices that have contributed in this province. So tell us a bit more about that. Remind us what the idea was and what you see as the importance behind that initiative.
Yeah, so I believe it was in 2023, I reached out to Municipalities NL, and I was just kind of letting them know that over the past few years, I had been pushing some more Black History Month content in this province. But one thing I really wanted people to be aware of was that Black history didn't happen away from Newfoundland and Labrador, that it was very much happening in this province as well. So I reached out to them and asked if they were willing to work with me to feature people in this province who had been making contributions and making a difference, whether it be really big or really small, but just so that the people of this province knew that Black people were here. They were in every municipality in this province, and they were doing things. They weren't just existing and not being part of the facet of the province. So they willingly said, sure, Laurabel, if you want to do this, we're willing to come along. So over the past few years, each year the theme is different. The subject matter that the people who are highlighted or talking about is different. But it gives those who are nominated and featured a chance to talk about what it feels like to be Black in this province, what things that they are proud of, what things are still obstacles for them, and what things they want those who aren't Black to know about the Black experience. And so that has been what it's been.
And why was it considered a good idea, on your part, to team up with Municipalities NL? Why did they seem like a logical partner for this?
So for me, it was because Newfoundland and Labrador is made up of multiple municipalities. So yes, we are a province, but we are very much a municipally driven province. So what is happening in each community matters to each community, and who better to connect with and facilitate that kind of conversation than Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador. I've had the opportunity to work with them on various different initiatives before. So when it was like, I wanted to go and do this, I was like, who would be most receptive to working with me and who would understand the importance of this venture and this idea and give me the room and the liberty to do it justice. And they would be the ones.
Well, we have Alexis Foster on the line right now from Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador. She's going to join us for just a couple of moments. She is the Director of Advocacy and Communications with Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador. Welcome to the program, Alexis.
Oh, thanks for having me.
So maybe you can just talk about it from your perspective, from the perspective of Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador, why this was something that you embraced, this partnership with Laurabel to feature and highlight the contributions of Black people in this province.
Completely. Well, Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador, we really have a broad work to promote diversity in the municipal sector. So promoting diversity is actually one of MNL's key advocacy pillars, and it's something that we feel is really important for our sector. We want to make sure that our municipal councils are reflective of the communities that they represent. So like even during the municipal elections, we run the Make Your Mark campaign, which encourages more diverse pools of candidates. So the opportunity right now to work with Laurabel is it's great, and it really helps with our work as well because it is incredibly important work.
Alexis, what else do we need, though? And I'll ask our guests in studio this same question, but from your perspective with Municipalities NL, what else do we need to do as people in communities to be more inclusive, to be more effective in anti-racism efforts?
Well, there's quite a wide range of things that we can do. A lot of work that MNL has been doing includes partnering with organizations like the Association of New Canadians and the Anti-Racism Coalition of Newfoundland Labrador. And we also regularly present sessions at our events on welcoming newcomers to communities, celebrating diversity, and combating racism. It's really important that we have these conversations and make people more aware of what life is like.
Alexis, how do we change the hearts and minds of people, who may have deeply entrenched attitudes towards people who they perceive to be outsiders, people they perceive to be have come after they arrived in this province? Because as Raven said, most of us, unless we are Indigenous, we are newcomers. We are immigrants to this country.
Yeah, that's very true. It's hard work. It's going to be a lot of hard work and continued conversations and partnerships like the one that we're fortunate enough to have with Laurabel, really bringing awareness to all of the issues and letting people know through whether it's educational sessions or even marketing campaigns, whatever it is, getting the word out there and just speaking more on the topics that are sometimes a little difficult to understand for some people, but we need to continue to have those conversations and encourage inclusivity in the sector.
Alexis, how do you think it's working out? Like this initiative now, having partnered with Laurabel over the last number of years, is it changing things? Is it opening people's eyes?
Well, I'm still very new to MNL, so I don't know if I can necessarily speak on some of this work through that lens, but it is something that we are definitely seeing all of the work that she's been very gracious with her time, and the success of the project is really all of her doing. So we do know that it has been successful in promoting Black community leaders and change makers, and that is incredibly important, and hopefully we can continue to do that.
Alexis, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
That's Alexis Foster. She is Director of Advocacy and Communications with Municipalities NL. I want to come back to you in the studio, Laurabel. I mean, I don't know if there's anything you want to pick up on what Alexis had to say, but just talk a little bit more about where people can see and hear the stories of the people who are highlighted through this program.
Absolutely. So it exists on the Municipalities Newfoundland and Labrador website. It's also shared through their social media. Over the last 4 years, the topics and themes have been different each year. They usually coincide with the federal theme for Black History Month. But one of the things that I really love about this partnership and this collaboration is that it gives the Black people in this province a chance to use their own voices, to tell their own stories and not have other people dictate what their experiences are. And in terms of like hopes and dreams for this project and what I hope people take away from this, like this is Black people telling their story, but it's for non-Black people to see who we are and how we exist in the spaces. And so they know what the gaps are and what their responsibilities are to create equity and to give people the opportunity to show up authentically in those communities and to give people their flowers. And honestly, I think it gives them a chance to know that we aren't just the hidden figures behind a fully functioning system, that we are in there because we want to. We are giving to this province because this is truly where a lot of us are choosing to make our lives. We could live anywhere else in the world. We're not here because we're stuck here. It's because we chose here, and we need people to understand that this is a choice that we are consciously making, so to treat it as such. And when it comes to creating that anti-racist society and giving that equity back into our communities, you need to understand what the experience is like, understand the role you play in anti-racism, and being willing to do the work. It is going to be uncomfortable, especially when we talk about the ideas of privilege, and that can be a sticky subject for some people, but understanding there is an inherent privilege in existing in a non-Black body in this province and in this society. So with that inherent privilege, there's work that you need to do. My favorite quote, which I use often when I'm doing presentations, is from Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. There is great power in being not Black in white communities. With that great power, you have a role that you have to play in creating equity.
Well, we have a guest joining us on the line now who's going to be with us for the rest of the program, or at least as long as she has available to join us. Wendy Ihama is the organizer of an upcoming event we mentioned that is coming up later in February called the Civic Roots Black Excellence Summit. And Wendy, welcome to The Signal.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, so pleased that you could join us. And I know you may be actually a little bit short on time, so I want to get right to you. Tell me about this upcoming summit.
Yeah, for sure. So the Black Excellence Summit is hosted by Civic Roots Foundation. It's a community-focused gathering that celebrates Black excellence in all its forms. It brings together educators, youths, professionals, creatives, and community leaders to share knowledge, lived experience, and insight across generations. The summit is also designed to be a space of learning, connection, and inspiration, while also highlighting the diversity and depth of Black identities and contributions across the province. I'm actually having Laurabel and Raven part of the summit too, so it's going to be a great time. It's open to everyone as well, including allies too.
Oh, I was just going to ask you that. I mean, who is this obviously designed for, or who are you targeting with this? It sounds like for all of us.
Exactly, yes. So it is for everyone. So it's going to be a space where Black leaders, youths, professional, educator, creatives, and community members share their experiences, art, speaking, and speeches as well. And the audience is going to be members of the public. We actually have registration currently ongoing with 70% capacity already registered for the event. And so it's going to be a space, and an open time to be able to learn from Black people with Black people as well.
And I understand it's February 20th and 21st.
That's correct.
And where can people get information then if they want to register?
Yeah, so the registration is actually available on the Civic Roots Foundation website. It's also on Destination St. John's as well. It's on there. But if you just Google Civic Roots Foundation Black Excellence Summit, it will pop up for registration. And registration is completely barrier-free, so it's free of charge for people to register and just come spend the 2 days with us at the summit.
Amazing. It sounds like an incredible learning opportunity for everyone.
Yes, it will be, and I'm really looking forward to it as well.
And I guess, is it also going to be really, perhaps for the Black community, a networking opportunity?
Yes, so February 20th is the networking social for the event. A lot of times with across sectors, when we in our own work, sometimes you're in a space with like-minded people or people who do similar work as you. So for the February 20th, it's going to be a networking social and a space where everyone all across different sectors and creatives and education will come together to share, mingle, network, and it would be a space to just learn from one another, and a little bit less structured on the 20th, where it's just going to be networking and mingling for the event.
And Wendy, before I let you go, I know you are probably only with us for a brief time. I want to ask you what Black History Month means to you.
Of course. Thank you for that. So for me, Black History Month is a time of affirmation, seeing the Black history centered, not sidelined. A reminder that Black History Month is not just about struggle, but also about brilliance, creativity, leadership, joy, and impact that shaped literally everything from music to medicine to politics. For some people, Black History Month can be pride. For others, it's grief, anger, or complicated feelings. I think all of that counts, and all of that, it's manifested in different aspects for me across different stages in my life. But I think all in all, I think Black History Month is Black excellence.
Wendy, thanks so much for being with us today. And I'm going to go to Laurabel and to Raven to ask about their contributions as part of your summit that's coming up later this month. But thanks for your time today on The Signal.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. That is Wendy Ihama. She is organizer of the Civic Roots Foundation Black Excellence Summit. She says if you Google that or do an internet search for it, you will get all the information you need about how to register. Civic Roots Foundation Black Excellence Summit. The 20th and 21st are the dates for that. Laurabel and Raven, I don't know which one of you wants to jump in first. You're going to be part of that summit. You're going to be taking part and addressing the summit. Raven, maybe first of all to you. I understand you're a speaker at the summit.
Yes, I am a speaker at the summit, and just as I have always written about, I take the term Black excellence to mean different things, but at the same time, to me, and I may be giving a bit of a wet blanket, but this is my version of anti-racism. So, that being said, I will say that for me, Black excellence could be a dual-edged sword in the way it's not just achievements on a resume. It's not just about who is in this organization and who made it past these certain barriers. It's about survival to me. It's about leadership. It's about creativity and the everyday acts of resistance that Black people have been doing since time immemorial, whether it was, you know, throwing away massa sugar in somewhere else, or whether now it is just honoring our own resilience. It's the way that Black people carve out space for themselves and communities, even under pressure, even within systems that we are not fully accepted by. And I had the opportunity of just being friends with Raven Wings, where she chats about Black futurism, where she literally talks about the fact that the present is so difficult for Black people to exist in, that we create a different type of future where we can exist with all of the fun and all of the beauty, all of the things that aren't really given to us freely. And that being said, I'd also like to draw attention to our flag raising that we will be having, Ravensong Consulting NL, in collaboration with the Anti-Racism Coalition NL, we're going to be raising the flag at City Hall to continue to be honoring a history of Black-led organizing within Newfoundland and Labrador and why it is so important. So in terms for me, I'm really excited about that event and to be a speaker, to be on that place, to be on that podium, to share what my experiences have been, what are the experiences of others who have chatted and spoken to me, and what just the entire thing is. Because a lot of times it's like, oh, we don't want to hear about the negativity. Well, unfortunately, we don't like to live in the negativity. That's also part of it as well. If you're tired, imagine so are we. So I think that's really, really important.
Okay, I'm gonna get Laurabel to jump in here. You're one of the moderators for this summit. What are you most looking forward to at this event?
I think at this event, as in most events that I get to moderate where I get to hear the lived experiences of diverse people, is I'm really looking forward to the rich conversations that will be had. The panelists are diverse. We'll have Raven there. We have a multitude of other panelists from different industries and different sectors and multitude of genders being represented. And I think it kind of shows the diversity that also exists within the Black community. Black identity isn't monolith. There are definitely some common threads that we all experience, racism being one of them. The idea of Black excellence being a double-edged sword, as Raven said. I'm a big fan of Black mediocrity. I want to be celebrated for existing the same way everyone else does. And so I really love when we have gatherings like what Civic Roots is putting together as a chance for people to see us just being. That yes, we are excellent in our existence because of the obstacles we've overcome, but we're excellent just for being. And it's important that people get to see these lived experiences, hear these stories being told from those who've walked this path.
We have another caller on the line. Johnny Alubu Selemani is chair of the National Black Caucus of the Canadian Federation of Students. So the National Black Caucus, the national organization. He's a student at College of the North Atlantic in Grand Falls, Windsor. Welcome to the program, Johnny.
Thank you, Bernie. Thank you so much for allowing me to be on your show.
Well, how would you describe the situation right now with the Black community in central Newfoundland? Because I can imagine it would be perhaps a different reality than in the capital city of this province.
Definitely beyond the overpass, it's a different story over here. I'm, first of all, very glad to hear the voices that I'm familiar with, listening to Laurabel, listening to Raven. It's good to know that the work that they've done within those parts is also trickling towards creating attention and allowing us to have conversations here in Central. Now, the experience is very different because, we've had to do a lot of mobilizing. Over the past few years, I've had to do a lot of nudging and pushing. And the word pleading is not the term I'd like to use, but it feels like pleading. And we shouldn't have to, 30 years into Black History Month, we shouldn't have to be nagging for people to come forward and start participating in Black History Month, So To answer that question, I think there's an African expression that says you can only tell how far you've gone by looking back. So, but it's not looking in regression to see how far we are, but rather to say how much work still needs to be done. Like your all other callers, we have different experiences of blackness and black history. But in Central, it's taken a lot more it's a lot of more nudging and nagging and pushing to try and get some attention around Black History Month, which is a pity. But this is where we are.
Are you making some progress?
Again, having looked back into over the past 3 years, definitely has been some progress. At the same time, as things evolve, other things come out of the woodwork. So we've had situations where organizations have stepped up to participate in Black History Month, but others have taken the opportunity to say, this is how we believe it should be done. And, being on a call with Laurabel the other day, because I'm trying to get her down here for a panel, the notion of nothing about us without us is something that people forget. Recently I was told this is what's happening for Black History Month, and I'm like, this is great that you're mobilizing, but again, nothing about us without us is important. So we have made some strides, but in some parts, I still see a bit of regression.
What do you want people to know about the Black community in this province? To listeners who are maybe tuning in this afternoon and thinking, I didn't know we had a real, quite a significant Black community in Newfoundland and Labrador. What would you say to them?
We have we have a growing community within Central, Gander, Grand Falls, growing community. For me, Black History Month, there are three aspects that I like to focus on. Is the education side. We talk about the invisible stories, the past heroes, those who are currently doing great things within our communities now. Part of the theme talks about honoring Black brilliance, across generations, from nation builders to tomorrow's visionaries. What's happening today is part of laying the foundation for tomorrow's visionaries. So educating around historical importance of Black History Month. The recognition of Black History Month is something that I think is also important, and we shouldn't neglect that. Over the past few months, I've been messaging, like the town of Gander, for example, been chatting to the town of Grand Falls. What are we doing to celebrate? How are we doing? Proclamation shouldn't be a debate. This should be normal. And even in the proclamation, we should have a say in the words that are going to be read out and signed. It mustn't just be a photo op opportunity to say, yes, we're being inclusive, but rather let us participate in conversations around it. So we have a growing community. In Grand Falls, we have the Black community of Grand Falls Windsor. In Gander, we have the Afro-Caribbean community that's growing as well. So, those two remind me that also reflection is important. We need to reflect about the history, but also what we're doing towards partnering with Black organizations to celebrate Black History Month.
All right, Johnny, we've got other callers on the line, so I do need to let you go. We could talk all day, but thank you very much for taking our call.
Thank you for having me on the call, and thanks for the others who are on there. Have a good one.
You too. That is Johnny Alubu Selemani, chair of the National Black Caucus of the Canadian Federation of Students and a student at College of the North Atlantic in Grand Falls, Windsor. Laurabel, he says he wants you to come out to Grand Falls, Windsor. Any thoughts on what you've just heard from Johnny?
I think it talks a lot about the struggle in terms of getting acknowledgement and recognition of the impact and contributions of Black folks within this province. As someone who has been doing the work for 6 years trying to push it, I recognize how disheartening it can be sometimes coming up against those walls. But if I could say anything to Johnny, we're friends. It's worth it. I promise you, it's worth it when you get to look back and see the impact that's been made, not just on a personal note, but when you see other organizations and other people getting to be and do things because the inroad has been made already. So
it's interesting what he had to say there about, the wording of a proclamation, and that someone would presume to know what to say without even checking with the Black community to say, am I getting this right? What do you think we should say? What's important to include here? Do you run into that a lot where people maybe well-intentioned to some extent, but yet really missing the mark in terms of that part of nothing about us without us?
Well, actually, that was actually a phrase assisted by Black Lives Matter Canada, nothing by us without us. And actually, it ties into the fact that in the beginning of Black Lives Matter Canada, Black Lives Matter Newfoundland, it was actually supposed to be white-led, where white people wanted to rally the Black people and to go out to speak what was happening. Of course, this was during COVID. This was when the majority of Black people here are actually students. So we have a whole different type of temporary status to be after to somebody else. So that type of programming and co-opting is the actual term. Even with the well of intentions, the best of intentions, it still doesn't change what takes place. And then when we tie it back to the fact that when Black people are not given the space to carve out our own voices, then pretty quickly it turns out to, something else. And then we still get the backlash of it. When we look at the amount of aggressive, violent protests, they were white-led. The statistics say that they were white-led. They were not Black-led. However, Black Lives Matter Canada still took all the heat for that. And I think that shows us the constant dichotomy of what we see when there is Black issues and Black pressing problems. But then again, white people believe that they do own the space or they're entitled to do that rather than allowing people to choose what they want to say as well and feel what they want to feel.
This is Black History Month. You're listening to The Signal today on CBC Radio 1. We have some guests in studio, but we also are speaking with some other folks in the Black community in this province. We have on the line with us now Chidinma Okaleke. She is a political science student at Memorial University in her master's program there. Good afternoon, Chidinma. Welcome to The Signal.
For having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. I wonder if we could start by just asking, I guess, what we've been asking all of our guests about, how significant is Black History Month to you? What does it mean to you?
Well, it's, of course, significant. It's very significant. When I think about Black History Month, especially this year, the theme that resonates deeply with me is Black joy. And initially, I wasn't really thinking about it in terms of a theme, but Laurabel framed Black joy so beautifully and so intentionally, and it really made me pause and reflect on what that really means. It has reminded me that Blackness itself is political, and that includes our joy, our laughter, our creativity, and the ways we choose to show up for ourselves. Often, Black history is discussed in frames of struggle, resistance, and pain. And while those realities are undeniably really important and very significant, they are not the entirety of who we are and who we present to be. Black joy pushes back against the idea that our identities are only shaped by suffering. It insists that we are also shaped by celebration, humor, love, community. And what's important to say clearly is that Black joy does not mean inaction or silence. It doesn't mean we're unaware of the injustice or that we aren't angry, grieving, or frustrated, especially given the current global climate. Politically, socially, and culturally, we're seeing renewed attacks on Black lives, Black bodies, and Black futures. From state policies to everyday microaggressions, there's a constant pressure placed on Black people to justify our humanity. And yet, in the midst of all that, we continue to find our ways to express our joy in our music, Afrobeat, amapiano, jazz, in our art, our fashion, the way we style ourselves, our self-definition. So, these things are cultural expressions, and they're acts of survival daily. So Black joy is radical because it refuses to let oppression have the final word. It is a declaration that despite systems that were never built for us in mind, we are still here, still creating, still loving, still smiling, still imagining futures beyond limitation. So joy becomes a way of saying, we are more than what we endure. And I also think Black joy matters because it sets a standard of forward movement. Even when circumstances are heavy, Black communities have historically found ways to hold joy alongside pain. And that coexistence is powerful. It challenges the false idea that joy and struggle cannot exist at the same time. Because in reality, for many Black people, they always have. For me personally, Black joy feels grounding. It feels like home. It reminds me of the importance of community and culture, of laughter that feels familiar, music that I really love, moments of connection that reaffirm belonging. So those moments really matter, especially now because they sustain us. They give us the energy to keep resisting, to keep moving forward, to keep organizing, to keep demanding better. So during Black History Month, centering Black joy, specifically for me, is not just about avoiding hard conversations at all. It's about expanding them, looking at them through a different lens, a different perspective. So Black people are not just responding to harm, but actively creating meaning, beauty, and possibility.
Chidinma, I'm going to jump in there now. I'm going to go back to our guests in studio, but I want to thank you for your time. We've got some other folks we need to get to on the phone lines as well. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
That is Chidinma Okaleke. She's a political science student at Memorial University, really emphasizing that idea of Black joy. And so I want to come back to you, Laurabel, and maybe you can expand on that a little bit and what it means to you and how you kind of balance that with, obviously the harsh realities of some of the things that are going on. She referred there to the global climate currently.
Yeah. So we have the Canadian federal theme for Black History Month, but personally, on my own this year, Black Joy is the theme I wanted to focus on. And I have to agree with Chidinma, all those things. As we've had over this course of this conversation, we've talked about the hardships, about being Black in predominantly white spaces. As those are truths, those are realities we can't avoid. But one thing that I found over the course of the last year especially is even in the face of all these obstacles and all these hardships, Black people found joy. They found joy even when it seemed so bleak and like there was no possible chance to laugh. They found a way to laugh. And I wanted to focus this year and for the rest of this year, not just for Black History Month, on why that was important, what joy has done in order to build that resilience, to be that resistance against forces that told us that we weren't worthy, that we didn't deserve to be in spaces. And I think it's a lot of the motivator that keeps us going when it's hard to keep going. And so I'm thankful for all the things Chidinma said. I'm thankful for those who, over the course of this month, have participated in initiatives talking about this idea of Black joy that I brought up. And I think it's the one thing that we get to fall back on, because even when all these happens, you can strip us away of just about everything that we have. And society has done that, but Black people have still found joy. They have made it, and it's just inherent to who we are.
Laurabel, as a mother, I'm a mother. My son is grown now, an adult, but, you only have this very limited time with your child. So how important is it for you to convey that sense of joy, as you're raising your child?
I think it's not even about conveying it to him. I think he does it for me. So I have a little boy, and like I tell people that he tests my gangster daily, but he wakes up some days and he's just like, today's a good day. And I can't argue with him because what am I supposed to say? He finds where he's hanging out with someone I call like his pseudo brother right now, and they have fun doing the weirdest things. And so I think in their inherent existence, before they are faced with the obstacles of the world trying to strip them down to nothingness, joy is inherent to our being. So I think it's not me showing him that joy is there. I think it's him reminding me it's there, and I'm just working to keep it alive in him, to remind him that it's worthy to be there and that he should hold on to it with everything he's got.
I love that. We have another person on the line. Ange States joins us now, and I believe Ange finds some joy in marathon running. Is that right, Ange? Hello, Ange.
Joy is in the physical running part of it, but the atmosphere, the energy from marathon running or any sort of races, it doesn't need to be a full marathon, even just a short run you do on your own, just even with community, I find is super powerful, and I love that part.
And Ange, what about for you, Black History Month? What does it represent to you? What thoughts come to mind for you?
I think for me, Black History Month is such an important time to celebrate community. And I've grown up in St. John's, and I do find that whether I was always probably the only Black person in my class growing up, but I do find that being able to share what that means to me being Black in this province with people who are even not non-Black people, I think any person in the community can benefit from celebrating Black History Month. It's always a reminder that we're stronger together than we are apart. And I think the resilience of Black people historically and even today is something that can be such a focal point for anyone, and anyone can kind of take strength from that. So for me, in February, it's kind of all about celebrating that. I know Laurabel's talking about celebrating the joy. It's such a powerful thing that can kind of transcend communities. You don't need to be Black to celebrate Black History Month, and I think that's such a big reminder that so many folks need to kind of take away this month.
And what do you attribute your resilience? You talked about growing up, in Newfoundland and Labrador and what that was like. But I mean, how do you believe that you found the strength to be where you are today and to be in the mind frame, the mindset that you have today?
I think it comes a lot from other Black leaders in the community, even my family, my dad and his siblings, seeing the example that they've set for me. I know there's a lot of stories I think each of us can tell of certain acts of ignorance that we've experienced, but even being able to look to someone and see that what they've done, they've chosen not to hate or not to let a negative experience really bring them down in a way that they're not going to work towards elevating the community. So I think there's a lot of learning that comes from the experiences of others, even our elders, our parents, our friends. I think that has kind of motivated me to find that resilience or find that strength. So of course there's growing up in a place that is predominantly white, there are some negative ignorance things that have happened, of course, but I do find that experiencing those and they kind of just make you stronger when you look for that aspect of community, that aspect of something like, I'm going to make the world a bit better because I'm seeing how negative it can be. And rather than participating in it or doubling down or fighting fire with fire, it's like you can kind of take that and make it be somewhat of an educational aspect for people. Like I think I used to be afraid of sharing anything that is negative happened to me, which I think a lot of Black people can relate to. There's some sort of embarrassment sometimes that comes from it, and you should never be embarrassed of those types of actions that have happened to you, but you kind of just want to make it quieter, not make other people uncomfortable because you're uncomfortable. But I found that coming and sharing my experiences just sheds so much light onto what is things that can happen to people, and I think it can make a lot more people strong, and the awareness comes there. So I think learning from other people, sharing your experiences, it's something that has helped me or strengthened me throughout my life, and it's something that I'll continue to do. I continue to look to other people in our community, other Black leaders, and I'm just going to kind of continue to share my experience and what being Black means to me.
Ange, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing that with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy Black History Month.
That is Ange States, and I want to come back to you, Raven. You know, talking about that balance between, yes, finding resilience, finding joy, but also acknowledging the truth. How do you strike that balance?
Well, Bernice, I have a question for you, actually. Do we ask white people to be resilient?
No, and I don't know if anyone's asking you to be resilient as such,
exactly.
right?
That's the thing, right? The idea of Blackness and resilience and the fifth of all the faiths. Like, what if we dreamed of a reality where we were not fighting to be resilient or being praised to be able to take it on the chin so wonderfully? We're chatting about Black excellence. However, I believe it was on January 23rd or 26th, I need to be clear and double check that fact, there was a lawyer called Sundeen Riley who is in a courtroom in a law building in Oshawa, where she was attacked by police. And this isn't getting as much exposure as we can chat about. But let's just highlight that and center it, right? When I was growing up, my mother told me all the time, education is your way forward. Education is the path to success. However, we have the complete iteration of Black excellence, a Black lawyer who in her place of work was attacked, was brutalized, was embarrassed in a way her other white cohorts will never have to be. And I think that in its entirety, even while I was preparing for this presentation, preparing for this radio show, that made me feel so upset and so angry. And I would like to send publicly lots of healing thoughts and lots of support to Sundeen, if she's listening, if it ever gets to her, that this matters and your voice matters, and we understand. And like so many Black professionals who were encouraged to show up as our whole selves to work and to come to Canada and see the other dream, you know, the other part, not the American dream, but the Canadian dream, where we won't be treated like that. I think we need to chat about that. And honestly, I will say that I practice Black joy every day in my life. Every time I can smile about something, I practice Black joy. But in terms of this particular conversation, in terms of this opportunity, in the times where most of the time we have a running joke in the Black community that we got the shortest month in the year, because that's how little people really want to chat about it. Let's take this opportunity, at least I would like to do so, to censor the fact of the ongoing racism and police violence, whether we're talking about my home country where we have the killing of Joshua Stamaru, where we're chatting about the people who were killed in Trump's bombing close to Venezuelan waters and Trinidadian waters, whether we're talking about Philando Castile or even white people being unalive due to state violence, and now we're chatting about the abolishing ICE. This is what Black Lives Matter was saying from the very beginning. Abolish the states of the institutions that are created on state violence and only generally affect people who are the darkest of us across any culture or across any hemisphere. So for me, I am going to highlight and focus on the fact that for me, Black History Month is always about truth-telling. It's always about repair. It's about reparations, that big R word, not Raven, that people don't really want to chat about. So from now on, y'all can call me Reparations Raven. Those are the kind of conversations I want to see chatting and people discussing about moving forward this month, this year, and in the future.
Raven, I do need to jump in because we do have another caller on the line. Chidinma is joining us now, Chidinma Ozougwu, and I really appreciate you being so patient and waiting on the line. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
And I understand you're the vice president of the Black Student Association at Memorial University. So thanks for taking some time away from your studies to speak with us today. What are your thoughts on Black History Month? You know, kind of what's important to you as we focus on this month?
Okay, thanks for having me today. Black History Month to me is both a time of remembrance and a call to action. It's about honoring our contribution and resilience of Black excellence here. And to me, we have created a society where people feel home now, where people feel welcomed. For this Black History Month and more, we have both for undergraduates and both for graduates. And this month, we just want to empower. We just want Black students to feel seen, to feel supported, to feel empowered. It's a time to educate and also celebrate culture, and just about visibility and pride in our culture. So yeah, that's what Black History Month means to me.
Chidinma, we are getting towards the end of the program, so I'm afraid we're going to have to let you go. But thank you so much for joining us for a few moments.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
That is Chidinma Ozougwu, Vice President of the Black Student Association at Memorial University. I certainly wish we had more time. Laurabel, I want to come to you with a final word. What do you want people to know about this month, about what's planned, about what they can do?
Black History Month is not just for Black people. So if you're not Black and wondering what this month has to do with you, research. Look into it, learn about Black experiences, figure out how you can create anti-racist and more equitable spaces for the Black folks in your community. For Black people, take this as your month off. Celebrate you, exist, be, take a break, literally. And for the things going on in the community, there are Black History Months taking place all across this province. Google them, find them, search them. They exist. Show up to them if you are not Black, as a place to learn, a place to build community, and a place to elevate Black voices.
All are welcome. Would that be fair to say?
Most are welcome unless you find out it's a closed space. And then if it's a space just for Black people, leave it there and don't upset it.
Of course, of course. And Raven, about 30 seconds to you. Just some final word on what you want people to know on this Black History Month.
Honesty. It's always honesty. And it is always the opportunity to reckon with harm, to celebrate, but also to tell of what the future could actually look like. And if we do really truly want equitable futures, then we need to stop pretending that these issues are unrelated and confront them head on. And don't forget, reparations can be discussed.
Well, thank you to both of you for coming in today. I appreciate you sharing some time with us, and I just wish we had more time to delve into this even further, but I think we've tried to reflect, the diversity. As you've said, Laurabel, the Black community is not a monolith. Not everybody agrees on everything. Not everybody has had the same life experience, but so important to be able to share some of those perspectives during the hour we've had together. So thank you to both of you.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for having me.
That is Raven Anderson, Khadeja Raven Anderson. She's an organizer with Black Lives Matter Newfoundland and Labrador and an organizer with Black Lives Matter Canada. Laurabel Mba is an anti-racism educator and a consultant and strategist on issues related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And that's all the time we have for The Signal today. I hope you have a wonderful day, everyone.